Hey everybody, Flip and Dani here, co-founders of the Freedom Real Estate Group family of companies.
Yes, and this is our podcast, Real Talk, which is real talk for real estate investors. And today we're going to be talking about our story.
From Trumpets to Rembrandt to real estate.
This is going to be a good one.
Yeah.
You're going to know everything about us. That's probably not a good thing. All right. So we kind of outlined how we wanted to kind of go through this. And I think we're starting with me in Arizona, right?
Right.
So I was born and raised in Arizona. My actual real name is Dani Robison. We go by Dani Lynn, and we got the nickname Flip and Dani on cruise ships. We'll go into that a little bit later. But I was born and raised in Phoenix, Arizona, went to high school at Goldwater High School. I think that's what it was called. Barry Goldwater High School. You'll learn from me that many times Flip can answer my questions before I can, because I have the worst memory in the world. Then I got a full scholarship to Southeastern University in Florida for music performance was the degree that I was in, and that was in Lakeland, Florida. So left Arizona, went to Florida, 4 years there to get that degree. And while I was there, I learned about a program at Disney where we were hired to play. And I was like, Disney? I want to play at Disney. That sounded so much fun. So I auditioned for it, got placed in... I was placed in this one group. No, I was placed in the Toy Soldiers to start. And the Toy Soldiers, what was so funny, and luckily for me, how this all turned out, is that the Toy Soldiers, the way that the outfit is it's kind of wooden, and I'm really short. I'm like 5'2" and a half if you're pushing it. And so it was really hard. You also had these herald trumpets, right? So they're super, super, super long horns. And so to get in the costume, even where the elbow was bending for me was longer than my actual arm was. So I had to really, 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 really stretch and try and hold this thing. And it was really awkward. And it was very hard to get the mouthpiece to my lips. And so it was kind of a nightmare being my height, trying to fit in this costume and be in the thing altogether. Well, fortunately, I was one of the better auditions, and somebody in the next group up, what were they called? Clown band. Yeah. So somebody in that group, something happened to them and they couldn't play anymore. And so I was already at the top of the list. They knew I was struggling anyway because of that costume. And so I got moved into the clown band. Whew, that was so much more fun. And so I was in the clown band for a long time. Makeup wasn't that fun, but it was way better than like trying to be in that toy soldier outfit. And so that was the Disney career. And then somebody in the Disney career, I can't remember his name, is Steve Faulkner, told me about cruise ships. And he said, I think you would love it doing cruise ships. So I auditioned to go on the cruise ships, and I got accepted to that. And so eventually that's where I landed. And then I met Flip at that point in time. That's why I think I'm stopping there, right? That's kind of what we discussed. Is that okay? All right, your turn.
So I grew up in Michigan. I went to a very small high school up in the thumb of Michigan, is what it's called. And I went to Michigan State. And a few years after I went to Michigan State, I also accepted a scholarship at Western Michigan University. And I was in Kalamazoo, and I learned about lake effect snow. Which I did not know about until I moved to Kalamazoo. And it was the winter of '96 that it was so cold that my car door froze open, so I had to drive while holding my door shut. And we got so much snow, it was absolutely miserable. And at the same time, a buddy of mine that I was working with at an amusement park at Cedar Point, he was going to school down in Jacksonville, Florida, at University of North Florida. And he says, "Hey, I got an extra room down here." And I said, "I'll be there." And so I got a scholarship down in North Florida, and I hightailed it out of there. I did not even, it was just nothing but a cloud of dust. That's all I left. So I went down to Florida. I'm a few months into school at Florida. Another friend of mine that I worked with at Cedar Point was working on, actually, when I got to Florida, that's when they said, "Hey, you need to play in this group at Disney called Christmas Brass." I said, "Yo, you got it. Absolutely." So I auditioned, and everybody had hyped me up, and so I played like 3 notes. And I said, you got the gig. And so I went down and played in Christmas Brass, and when I got there, everyone said, "Oh, so you're going to North Florida. Do you know the trumpet player named Danielle?" I said, "No, never heard of her." And they said, oh, okay. And so then there was 3 groups. There was the Toy Soldiers, the Clown Band, and then the Riverboat.
Riverboat Band.
And so I made the Riverboat Band. So I was on the back of the Riverboat. I had to be harnessed into the back end of the Riverboat and played during the Disney magical musical parade, I can't remember what the name of it. Anyway, the Christmas praise.
Yeah.
And I found out something really quick. That snow that they put, to make it. I found out that's actually shaved soap.
Yes.
So don't try to catch that on your tongue. I did. And so, but those 3 bands all combined to make Christmas Brass, and so I did that Christmas Brass that one year, and then about 2 months after I got done with the Disney job. Another friend of mine called me and said, hey, I need a trumpet player on a cruise ship. And I said, okay, when? He goes, I need it Friday. And it was Tuesday. And I said, all right. Again, cloud of dust. I was off. I packed up my things, got down to Miami, and walked on my first cruise ship on that Friday. Now, here's the funny thing, is that same Friday that I got on that very cruise ship, the Carnival Ecstasy, Danielle was actually getting off of the cruise ship. Actually, I was replacing the Trumpets at that time. And so we passed. I had 2 ships in the night, passing in the night, I think. Yeah.
And didn't know each other.
Didn't know each other. Still didn't know each other. And so then I got on the cruise ship, and like probably the first or second week, somebody says, oh, you went to school at North Florida. You worked at Disney? Oh, so you know Danielle. And I'm like, no, I don't know this Danielle. So many months pass, and there was a hurricane that came into the Caribbean, and when the hurricane comes into the Caribbean, all the cruise ships go somewhere else. And so there was about, 8 or 10 cruise ships in Nassau, Bahamas, which it can barely hold 4 cruise ships. But it had all these cruise ships in. And our cruise ship wasn't supposed to be there that day. And in the schedule, we had to play a formal dance for the captain. And so we get all dressed up in our tuxedos, and we're on the stage, and we're doing this dance, and nobody's there because everyone's we're in port. Everyone's in Nassau. And so the curtain opens, and there's like maybe 30 people in the room, but there's like 8 people right in the front row. And so we're playing, and all of a sudden the trumpet player next to me says, hey, remember that Danielle I was telling you about? And I said, yeah. He goes, that's her in the front row. And I was like, no way. This is, oh my gosh, I can't believe this. So we get done with the dance set, and I immediately ran out there, threw the curtains open, and they were gone. I was devastated. I couldn't believe it. So I just quick put my stuff away, ran downstairs, grabbed my cruise ship ID, ran outside. Now this is Nassau, Bahamas, 6 o'clock at night. It's probably 110 degrees with 300% humidity, and I'm in a tuxedo, and I am running down the pier yelling, Danielle, Danielle. Now, mind you, she has no idea who I am. So anyway, so I end up explaining the story, and so we met, and then we ended up hanging out that night. All the groups actually went to this one place that we always go to, and so we got to hang out that night. And then it was probably about another 6 or 8 months later that I, for some reason, I don't know how, but she got put on my cruise ship because I was the musical director. That's why. And so as they like to say, the rest was history.
Do you remember the names of the ships that we were both on when we both went to Nassau?
Yep. Carnival Triumph. Well, actually, Carnival Destiny. That's where the Destiny.
Yes, it was Destiny. Yes, that's part of where I was going with that. Yep. I just can't remember who was on who.
Yeah. You were on the Paradise, and then you came over to the Destiny because that's where I was.
To watch you guys play it.
Yep, and then and so then later on, actually, where we met, we were on I was on the Carnival Sensation. You were on the Paradise. That's where we met.
Okay.
Yep. Then later you were on the Paradise. I was on the Destiny, and then I needed a trumpet. Yep, I needed a trumpet player on the Destiny.
There it is.
And then the Destiny was actually grooming the band for the newest cruise ship, the Carnival Triumph, which we flew out to Italy. Spent 4 weeks in Italy getting that ship ready, and then we came from Italy over to New York City on the Carnival Triumph. So we did the inaugural runs there. So that was fun.
Yes.
But one of the things that you probably don't know about musicians on cruise ships, you work like 2 or 3 hours at night. So until like 6 o'clock at night, you have nothing to do. So you either get really good at PlayStation or practicing your horn or whatever. And this is something that Dani's going to talk about, is there was another activity on the cruise ships called art auctions.
Yeah. So this was, so like he said, we're only working a couple hours, and then we practice sometimes, while we're in port or something. Depends on Flip. Flip's the musical director. He gets to tell us when we're working, when we're not working. So I got a job with Art Auctioneer to just get some side income. And I was like the cashier, and I just helped check people in and check people out whenever they bought artwork. And I was helping do paperwork at the end of the cruise. And I was in his cabin, and his name's Bill. And we were doing all the paperwork, and he had his commission check out from like the last month or something. And so I took a look at it, and I was like, oh my gosh, like if you guys knew how much musicians get paid, and then you saw this check, you were just like, I was like, oh my gosh, he's rolling in dough, he's rich.
I'll tell this part. Okay. So here I am minding my own business in my cabin, and all of a sudden my cabin door flies open, and she just runs into the middle of my cabin and points at me. She goes, "You're going to be an art auctioneer." As if I had a choice.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that was awesome. And that took us to the next part of our career path, right?
So we actually became art auctioneers. We got off cruise ships in 2000, August of 2000, and we immediately went to training, did 2 weeks of training, and they threw us right out onto a cruise ship. So within a few weeks, we went from being trumpet players on a cruise ship to being art auctioneers on a cruise ship. Mm-hmm. And they put us on this little tiny ship, and a celebrity ship called the Horizon, which I think it's about the size of the lifeboats that they have on ships now. And this was a small ship. But anyway, so they sent us out there. We spent, I think it was about 8 months on the Horizon. And then we went on to do a number of ships, lots of Carnival ships, Norwegian ships, Royal Caribbean ships, but more Carnival ships than the other lines. But we got to do a lot of different lines. We got to spend a summer in what is that? It's not the Mediterranean. We wanted to do the Mediterranean, the Baltic. Yes, we did 2-week cruises from Amsterdam over to Russia and back. It was every port was a different country. Mm-hmm. So we got to see. We did Alaska. We did Canada, the New York to Canada. We did a lot of different cruises. So we got to see a lot of places. Yeah. But we actually ended up getting promoted. So the art gallery that did the auctions on ships, they have a land program, or at least they did back then, and they promoted us to land and said, where do you guys want to live? And my family had more people than your family, so we chose Texas.
Yes, it was between Texas and Arizona because of our families.
So we moved to Round Rock, Texas. And so we got there and we were doing it. We were doing auctions every other weekend, flying to different cities all over. And that was when we started to really get the real estate itch. And it was we started showing interest in it. And so then it was in 2008, and that's when we said, hey, it's time to make a change. Let's go jump into real estate. We started studying. We got our we went and took the test, got our real estate license. So we were official realtors in September of 2008 at the worst time to get our licenses. 8 months later, after getting our licenses and one deal, that's when we said, hey, because Dani was really looking into real estate investing. She goes, I think we should do real estate investing. And she reached out to a number of people so we can get some training, because that's one of the things that we always do is training on everything. Mm-hmm. And so that's when we found Phil Grove. Yep. And that's when we jumped in with both feet in real estate investing. And again, cloud of dust. And we just took off. We didn't stop. Mm-hmm. And so I'll let you take over from here.
Yeah. Okay. So, Phil had his class. It was 12 ways to buy and sell real estate. And our broker was very interested in investing as well. So we told her about it. We all kind of went in on this together. I don't even know if she went to that class or she might have gone to a different class, but ultimately we started investing together. It was really nice that we had an investor-friendly broker. Mm-hmm. And so we started doing, short sales and sub-twos and, things like that for that market, because it was a market where a lot of people didn't have a lot of equity. They were upside down in their house. So we had to figure out what's the best strategy for this market. And that's what real estate is always about, is figuring out adapting to where you are in the market cycle. So that's what we did when we started. We did a ton of deals. We hit the ground running, like you said. And one of the things that Phil said is, we would do like weekly meetings, right, with all of us. And he said, honestly, you guys, 10%, if not less, of the people who I coach actually succeed. Mm-hmm. And it's because of the lack of taking action on most people's part. It's not that the information is not true and right. It's that they just don't get out there and do it. Mm-hmm. And I think that was one of the reasons for our success, in hitting the ground running, is we had, I think 5 of us in total that said, hey, let's do this together and let's hold ourselves accountable and let's brainstorm. How is this working? How is this working? As we meet with sellers and talk to them. And I really think that that's why we succeeded, because we weren't on our own, because you and I know accountability between you and why? It's tough, right? I'm going to let you off the hook. You're going to let me off the hook. Yeah, exactly. But we had 3 other people. So I think that's how we found such success and why we're still in real estate today, because we had that, first fresh start. And Phil was awesome too. So we took all that coaching, learned a lot. We ended up staying in Texas until when did we
2014.
Okay, 2014 we decided to move to Arizona. And at that actual move was only because my mom was in the hospital. She had a scare. She was in the ICU for a long time. We didn't know if she was going to make it or not. Thank God she did. She's still alive and well today. But we went to Arizona so that I could be closer, to my family in Arizona for a little bit. And then in Arizona, we were doing wholesaling. In fact, that's the stories that we always tell that, Arizona, they're full of, I'm sorry if you're from Arizona, but everybody there, I was born and raised there. Y'all are jerks. When we were in Texas, everybody's good old boy, cowboy, hug ya, friendly. How can I help you? Just lending a hand wherever you can. Arizona, you don't even want to drive there. People are just awful. But real estate is really no different. It's really cutthroat. There's a lot of people out there, a lot of bandit signs. Everybody's teaching there, so you got all the newbies. So we were doing wholesaling there, and I'll let you tell this story because we identified 2 or 3 people that bought every single one of our deals. So I'll let you take over from there.
Yeah, actually, I wanted to touch on one thing real quick, though, is when we first started with Phil Grove, people always ask, how'd you start? What'd you guys do?
Yeah.
And it said, so we actually went to Sam's Club and we bought a REMA paper about this big with colorful paper.
Yeah.
It was the neon colored paper. And we wrote with a Sharpie on a white piece of paper, hello, we happened to be in the neighborhood. We're buying a couple of properties. I can't remember what the initial wording was. Please call us at this number.
Yep.
And so we printed that out 500 times. And then we would go out about 8:30, 9 o'clock in the morning, because it's Texas, it's hot, but we like to catch people that after they've already left for work or whatever, so that way we can put it on their doors and not get interrupted, so we can hit a neighborhood fast. And so we're out in this, and I always tell people this because this is key. So I was on one side of the road, she was on the other side of the road. And we're walking, and all of a sudden I see this lady that just parked her car. She just got out of her car, and she's 2 driveways ahead of me on my side. So I immediately went to Dani's side. And Dani came over to my side, and the lady says, excuse me, what are you doing? And Dani, just at the drop of a hat, goes, oh, well, we're on a Raising Values campaign, and we're looking for a couple of properties in this neighborhood, so that way we can buy the properties and fix them up and raise the values of the neighborhood properties. Do you happen to know anyone who's looking to sell? Oh, this lady was, oh, that person over there, and this person over there. She just, it was funny. But meanwhile, I'm on the other side of the street going, Raising Values campaign. I got to remember that one. But that's one of the key things that we did. We did that a lot, actually. In Texas, and that did lead to a lot of deals, actually. And then when we moved to Arizona, we did wholesaling was the big thing in Arizona. You couldn't throw a rock without hitting a wholesale property, and we weren't there for very long. And I said it probably took us about 6 months to find the real players, and we did find 3. And so it was very simple. I found 3 of the biggest buyers. And so whenever I'd get a property under contract, I'd call the first one, then I'd call the second one, and then I'd call the third one. I always had it sold by one of those 3. And so I would typically have a property sold right after having it under contract before I even got back to the house, because I knew the top 3 guys to call. Yep. And we're top 3 people or whatever. They just happen to be guys. But Dani talked about them being jerks. We spent, it was 6 years in real estate in Texas. And we had one piece of paper with maybe 8 or 9 people on that piece of paper, and that was the blacklist in Texas. Yeah. Within 3 months of being in Arizona, we had 3 pages of names of people not to do business with. Yep. It was amazing. I mean, amazingly bad. I always said that it's the heat. It fries their brain. But it was so true. And so, but anyway, we did a lot of wholesaling, and we figured out how to do it. And then
we also did some sub 2 wraps there too, right? Because we started doing sub 2 wraps in Texas.
That was our main thing we did in Texas. And then we did a couple in Arizona. The real estate laws in Arizona weren't as friendly as they were in Texas. And so the wholesale deals were by far more. And so that's why we did more wholesales in Arizona than we did sub 2s. But we did a few of those as well.
Yeah. So then what happened? Oh, we created a mastermind on Facebook because I, again, was looking for a coach because I was like, I want to do volume, I just, we know how to do this. We're successful at it. Now, how do we make it bigger? And so started looking for coaches, found a few coaches. We always find 2 or 3 different coaches and then decide and interview them and, talk to them. And we always want to find them what's the right fit for us, right? And who do we trust? Because a lot of people teach and don't do. And so that's always important to us. How are you still doing it right now? Do you know the current laws? Do you know the current things that work? Or are you teaching something that worked 10 years ago? Right. So we ended up forming a mastermind as well, in addition to studying from a couple people. I don't think we actually hired a true coach. I think we just got their programs and learned that way. But we formed a mastermind in Facebook of real people across the United States that were doing volume. And that's when we learned about turnkey real estate. And so we started working with an investor here in Ohio who was doing turnkey real estate. And you were actually, on the phone selling, right? And you'd never been to Ohio. Well, not never been because you were born here. But I'll let you tell that story.
So I was in Arizona talking to a person in Connecticut, selling a property in Dayton, Ohio that I'd never been to.
Yep.
And it was just, the transactions were not, I don't want to say easy, but they were very simple. It was, here's the property, here's what it costs, here's your return, here's the cap rate on this property.
Yep.
Do you want it? It was that was it. It was, and
it's not emotional, right?
It's totally not emotional. It's just numbers.
Yep.
And it just blew me away. And the thing that I immediately liked about it was, in real estate investing, we never worked with anybody twice.
Right.
Every single person we worked with them once, and we never saw them again.
Yeah.
And being in the art world that we were in for so long, we loved seeing people again. Because then you say, oh, hey, guys, I know. Hey, I got this thing over here. You got to come see this.
Yep.
I got the perfect piece for you, because you know them. Yeah. And then that's when we realized very quickly, because one of the guys that I had sold a property that I'd never been to, he called me up and he says, hey, do you have anything else? And I was like, ding. I love this. Yeah. This is awesome. We need to do this. Well, we're in Arizona. You can't do this in Arizona. And it's because of the price of the property versus what the rental rate is. And so because of that, that's when we went, guess we're moving back to Ohio. Well, for me, back to Ohio. For you, first time to Ohio.
Yeah. So that was quite a conversation going back and forth of whether we should move, because we really did go out there so I could spend more time with, my family. But then we realized, hey, I really, really love this. And the reason we did sub 2 RAVs is because we love passive income. We've always been a fan of passive income. So how can we continue to do that? And we realized turnkey real estate, all that is passive income. We're helping other investors do what we like to do. We just didn't like the tenants and toilets piece of it. But then we realized in turnkey real estate, you have your property management company. It's kind of start of the, it's part of the package. So your tenants and toilets, somebody else is managing it, not you. Right. So we understood all of that and went, man, this is powerful. So ultimately we said, let's do it. Let's just pull the trigger. And so we moved to Ohio and even rented a place sight unseen, I think.
Yeah, we rented a house sight unseen, driving down the street, going to the house, going, I hope we like this.
Yeah, so here we are in Ohio, and so we're doing turnkey real estate, right? Starting in 2015 is when we got here, and just loved it, fell in love with it. Ultimately, we decided that this was our path. This is what we wanted to do. In 2017, we formed Freedom Real Estate Group, and out of Freedom Real Estate Group, I think our very first podcast, we actually went into this family of companies and how they all got started and why each one got started. And so we won't really dive into that here since you've already heard it. If you didn't, go back to podcast number 1 and you can hear it again. But now we have 6 companies. And we have what is this? Is this 15 or 18,000 square foot office?
15,000.
Okay, 15,000 square foot office. We have over 40 team members. So we really we fell in love and found our passion, with what we wanted to do. And we just grew it and allowed it to organically kind of grow. Because now literally all of our companies refer business, to each other because we've built, the arms of pretty much everything that you're going to do in a turnkey space. And we've even added syndications and multifamily and now large apartments, stuff like that. So I think that brings us kind of up to date on real estate, right? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yep. So I'm going to start checking off because we made a kind of outline, make sure that we hit everything. So we talked about how we met. We talked about the path from musician to auctioneer to real estate. We talked about going from Florida, where we were in college, Texas, to because your family was larger. If we had the conversation was, if we have to fly our family somewhere, which family is it? It's less expensive for me to fly my family than Flip. So we said, let's go to Texas. Then we went to Arizona to be with my family, and then Ohio because of turnkey real estate. Okay, so we went down that path. The timeline, we talked about that a little bit. So 2015 is when we came to Ohio. 2017, we built Freedom Real Estate Group. And now 4 years later, it's 4 years, right? 2021, it's actually 2015 is 6 years, but from building, and I say this because I just looked it up. I was like, we have 6 companies. Like, they say that companies typically fail like within the first 5 years or something like that. I was like, we have 6 companies. How long have we owned these companies? When did we start? And so I started digging in and looking at all these, and I was like, it's been 4 years. We have 6 companies in 4 years, and we're actually doing good. Like, it's we'll talk about that, about the success and why I think of the success. Because literally is the next bullet point here is the team. So as we built this team, everybody knows us for culture, right? We care about the team. In fact, we just did a questionnaire recently when we got back from vacation, which we're going to talk about next in terms of burnout. But we did this questionnaire to ask our team, what do you think the culture is here? Is it customer first or team first? And it was really interesting to hear and a light that went off in our head of, we need to do a little bit of better job about what this means to us. So I'm reading this book called Vivid Vision right now, and I'm working on really telling the story of who we are and what we want for everybody. And it is team first. We are a team first company. The team means everything to us. We want to see them succeed as much as we succeed. We're doing it alongside each other. We don't call our team staff. We don't use that word. We don't call them employees. They are team members, and that's for a reason, and that's the culture that we want to build. Yep. So I think that really, truly plays into why we're so successful, because Flip and I, as we were building all of this, it takes a lot out of us, right? Especially because of COVID. COVID hit, and it was because we're a team-first mentality and culture. COVID hit, and we're like, we're not going to let anybody go, because we were watching in our mastermind, literally in our mastermind group, people going, I had to cut, X number of employees. I had to do this. I'm making this shift. I got an investor here locally, same thing. They let go of their COO. They let go of 10 or 15 people in their company. And they're just like, everybody got scared and nervous. What's going to happen? And I was like, we can't do that. You can't have a culture of team first and then go and let them go as soon as the market shifts. We're a real estate company. Adapt, figure it out. And so we did that. And I really think because we work hard, we don't take any time off.
Right.
In fact, a year will go by and we'll go, crap, we didn't even take a vacation. And so there got to be a point where we were mandatorily saying, we're setting at the beginning of each year, we would say, okay, these are the months we're going on vacation. And we would start search cabins and we would book them, because if we didn't book them, it was not going to happen. So when COVID hit, all of those vacations went down the tubes. And then the stress of saying, I'm going to keep every single team member, and the weight that put on our heads of being able to make it shift, adapt, keep on buying, be able to afford the overhead, get through it. That was it was crazy. So not taking our vacations anymore. Stress of COVID. Are we going to be able to make it? That's always the question mark. And just pushing as hard as we can. It was crazy. And I think that really took a toll on us. And here we are at the end of it, right? When nobody's wearing masks anymore for the most part. We're just pretty much out of the woods. And we had just gone to Washington, D.C., right? And so we got back from that vacation, and I wasn't ready. I was like, I'm toast still. This vacation didn't work, because every time we go on vacation, what do we do? We're working.
Yeah. We did a podcast, I think around. Yeah. We did a full podcast in our hotel room in Washington, D.C. Yeah. That's a vacation.
Yeah. And that's that's typical for entrepreneurs, right? Yeah. But I think that because we've never really truly taken a break, and we've just always done that, and then right after the tail end of COVID and getting out of it, I think that I was just in shutdown mode. And so when we came back, I literally told Flip, I can't keep on going. I'm toast. That break was supposed to rejuvenate me. It did not rejuvenate me at all. I'm dying. I need a real break. And I was even talking about 30 days. I just want to take 30 days off. I want to get out, and I want to think about work, and I want to talk about work. I just need a refresh, because I'm no good to anybody if I don't do that. And so we started talking about it, and we realized 30 days is probably really unrealistic. We've never done it before. So why think you could just take 30 days now? So we ended up settling on 2 weeks. Mm-hmm. And then we built this sheet. We called it the Fnd Decision Tree. It's a spreadsheet. And we started writing down every single thing that we did. So I canceled my appointments for it because the minute we decided it, you booked Cancun, right?
Yep.
Okay, so then you booked it 3 weeks from the time we decided it. Is that right? Yep. And we did that on purpose. We were going to go quicker, but we had some appointments lined up. Yeah, and so we were like, we got to get through these appointments that we ended up rescheduling, thank God, because they were really, really important appointments that we did not have the mind for. You know, we couldn't even wrap our heads around where we needed to be, what mind space we needed to be in, because they were growth. You know, it was an all-day marketing and then a 2-day with somebody else for, you know, the vision and the growth of the company. Mm-hmm. And we're in burnout mode. Like, how do you, but we were pushing, right? And they were important people that hard to schedule in the first place, didn't want to reschedule them. So that's why we took a 2 weeks. So during that 2 weeks, we wiped out all other appointments and said everything else is being put on hold because now we need to train. We've got 2 weeks to train everybody on what we do, built that spreadsheet, wrote down everything that we do. We had a couple columns. One was who's the primary person this task is being given to? Are you trained on it? Who's the secondary backup person if the first one can't do it or they need to collaborate on it? Are they trained on it? And then some notes like box and then a training link. So if we recorded a video or just wrote down the process, if it was easy to write down, we would have that. So this entire sheet, I have a tab, Flip has a tab, and we're just next 2 weeks going balls to the wall trying to write down everything that we do and provide the training to the team that we need it. And then we tell everybody, here's the sheet, look on it. You need to review the training information. You need to let us know that you're comfortable taking on this task, and you need to check the box that you are ready to take on this task. And so we did that before we left. And before we left, you know, I think for the most part, everybody had said, yep, you know, I'm good, or they checked the box, whatever that was. And we had 2 people in place, Tina and Randy, who were like the top. They were Flip and I, essentially. Right. I said, if you get all to the way to the point and you still can't make a decision between the primary person and the secondary person, that's when you go to Tina or Randy, and they will help you. And we literally said in Slack, no one will get fired while we're gone. Exactly. Yeah, you can make whatever mistake. I always say I've made more mistakes than anybody could. I've lost more money than anybody could. So there's no way that you could do worse than I have done as we built these businesses. So we gave them that freedom of knowing I might not make the right decision, but I'm the one in charge and I've been delegated to make the decision, so I'm going to do the very best that I can. And when we came back, there was some things, we won't really talk about them, but there was a list of things that were like, that wasn't perfect, but we knew we were going to come back to something. Like, if they ran it perfectly, I don't even know. I'd be back on vacation, I think. I'd be like, you guys are awesome. See you later. But yeah, so that was like, you know, burnout mode. But we have talked about this book called Who Not How. And I think that we talked about the team being the reason, you know, why we're so successful, because they're so incredible. And we built a culture where I think that they know that we love and appreciate them so much. And if they don't know that, they're about to learn it, because I'm creating this vivid vision and we're doing our 1-3-10s again. And we're going to roll it out and make sure that they know and understand all of this stuff. But the Who Not How, like we've placed who's in pretty much every company now that literally they run it. Like that's their baby. It's they're entrepreneurs themselves, and they take the ball, the football, and they're the ones responsible for taking it across the finish line. So because we've built our business or learned that what was the key to building a great business, I think that's why we were able to take this break. And we didn't do anything, right? Like we literally had talked. I said, did you work? Because I didn't work. Like I literally had to get back on my computer one day, the first day we were in Cancun, because Jeff, my right hand, he said, "Are you okay? Are you worried about anything?" And I said, "Honestly, I'm not. You guys are capable. You guys are smart. Many of you smarter than I am." I said, "So I'm not worried. What I'm worried about is what I forgot to tell you guys." Right. So I'm going to be on the plane going, I didn't tell them about this. So there was a few things, and I went, crap, did I tell them? Did somebody know? And they were taken care of. Like, but I had gotten on a quick sheet that Jeff and I share, and I had written them down that first day. And I saw some emails coming in about the syndication that we were raising money for, and I was like, do not open. And I'm so OCD, I so wanted to open them, but I just shut my laptop, put it in the safe that we had in our room, and didn't touch it for the rest of the time. I had a journal that allowed me to dump anything that I wanted to dump if I had to dump. We even wrote down, like, day one, did we think about work? What did we think about? Because part of this was we knew that there would be some work thoughts, and maybe not necessarily work thoughts pertaining to the business, active business. Did I remember to do this? What do you think about this? But future, like, what do we want? Are we doing what we want right now? And if we aren't, what do we want to do? What is our future goal? We knew the big picture was going to happen. So we took this journal, and so we started writing all this stuff. And so I think that's where I'm going to get here. So I think we got through the who, not how, part of the success, our team, our culture. Okay, so on this vacation, it was a do not disturb. They weren't allowed to, they had our personal line. So this is a gold nugget. If you ever want to do a do not disturb to be able to refresh yourself, I'll let you tell the story about personal phones.
Yeah, so we decided because everybody and their brother has our phone number.
Yes.
And so we said, well, what if we go out and get 2 new phones and make those our personal phones, and the other phones are just going to be our business phones because, well, nobody has our personal phone unless we give it to them. So we just got these phones like maybe 2 weeks before. Like, it was right after we decided we were doing the vacation. I went out and got the phones.
Yeah.
So that way, nobody has these phone lines at all, except for maybe a handful of people that we told before we left. And so these phones didn't go off at all.
I know.
In fact, I found myself like hitting the phone, digital addiction, right? It's a real thing. Like, you could be standing in line at Starbucks and your phone didn't buzz. It didn't do whatever. But yeah, you look at it and you hit it and you go, okay, nobody called. It's like this addiction. Oh, I found myself hitting my phone, and I knew it was my personal phone, or maybe I didn't. Maybe I was just hitting it because out of habit or something, and there was nothing. And you actually put a different screensaver on this one. So every time I hit it, I saw Bailey's face, and I was like, this is my personal phone. There's nothing here. My emails weren't on there. The Slack wasn't in there. Like, we didn't put anything on there. We couldn't even tempt ourselves to do anything. So it was really hilarious kind of getting out of that digital addiction, phase of things. And so we have this journal, and we're writing in it every day. What did we think about, so that we can kind of track what it was. And part of the discussion that we ended up having was, why did we get to the burnout? Why did it get so bad? Because when you love work, it's very hard not to be doing it all the time, and it's very hard to get burnout. And so we started talking about COVID and stress and financials and being able to cover everything during a crisis. And with 6 companies, we have heavy overhead. I won't mention how much it is, but it'll stress anybody out. So with this overhead, I told Flip, I said, I think that's what it is. We have this massive overhead. We just went through a pandemic. We were worried. We weren't going to let our team go. We were going to figure it out. The stress of all of that. And even now that we're out of it and we're on fire, we're doing better than we ever have before. We're hitting records. There's still that number that it's burned in my head that we have to cover that nut every single month just to break even and pay our team. And so I said, I think that's a source of this stress that I just can't let go of. So, how do we fix that? Well, it's not firing anybody. We're a team first culture. So, how else do we do it? And so we start talking about our apartment deal. So that 56 unit that we've told you guys about, and we're going to do another podcast here real soon about it because we're getting to the stage where we're going to be able to refinance it. And we just talked about the journey of those apartments. And it was a nightmare. And we'll get into it. But the passive income, once we finally get to the finish line, the passive income is amazing. And what we're actually going to sell the 8 unit. And so we're just preparing for that. And even the return on that investment from, the time we bought it and the rehab and the nightmares that we had to go through to get it through. Nobody else wants to do that. You have to be a full-time investor, and you've got to have grit, and tenacity, because that we went through crap. I won't say a 4-letter word in here, but man, it was insane. But because we do it full time, and because we're really good at it, and because we have an amazing team, we got through it. And so we're going to sell the 8. We're going to keep the other 48. And that passive income is a small piece of, small peace of mind for us, that we have that coming in no matter what. And that's what we teach everybody. That's why we have sub 2 wraps. We still own some properties that are sub 2 wraps, and passive income has always been our thing. But when we entered turnkey, we did it more for other people than we did for ourselves. We ended up just this last year acquiring 60 doors for ourselves because we're like, why are we selling every single one? We need to be buying it. And really the answer was, we need to pay our team. We have to get profit back in the doors so that we can pay our overhead. That was why. So we're discovering all of this. What's the source of the stress? Let's talk about what we're doing, what we're proud of, why we didn't do this sooner. And that's the conversations that we had. And then ultimately we said, let's let's buy more apartments.
Mhm.
Because if we can build enough passive income that will cover our overhead every single month,
Mhm.
then now we don't have to worry about it. Now, it's not meant to cover our overhead. Our business is meant to be successful. And if it's a failing business, we need to shut down that business and do something different. It is meant to be a safety net to give me peace of mind, and I can sleep at night, and my team is okay, everybody's okay. And if we have a bad month or the market shifts, we're not worried about, can we sustain this overhead? We've got the cushion that we need to shift, adapt, do what we need to, because this whatever we end up doing, if it's a company that's holding all this company can loan the business money for that time, and we don't have to worry about anything. So we made a goal of, and I'm going to let you talk about the goal and how we got there and all that stuff, but we made a goal of 1,000 doors in 12 months. And anybody who knows us knows we're always kind of insane like that. We set big goals and they're lofty, and we always kind of feel like we're just going to throw a number out there. And there was actually a math. We were in Felipe's pool in Cancun when 1,000 doors came up and why it came up. So I'm just going to let you tell a story.
Yeah, so the pool was at this resort where we're at, and we've been there a number of times, and there was 2 or 3 times in a row that we were there that there was always the same bartender. His name was Felipe. And so we would always wake up and we're going to Felipe's pool today. And so this pool in Felipe no longer works there anymore.
We still call it
the Felipe's pool. That's right. And so anyway, so we were there, and it was because it's Cancun in June. It's hot. Very humid, so the pools were very nice.
Yeah.
And so we were just there relaxing, and that's when we were talking about it. The cash flow. What can we, how much is it going to take? If we have X amount coming in every month, it's not supposed to support the company, but it's there in case.
Yeah.
Because we don't want the company relying on this money. But if something else happens or pandemic version 2 happens, we've got something to take care of everything, because the cash flow is still going to happen.
Yeah.
And so that's when we started figuring out the numbers, and that's when we figured out if we do X amount of doors, take out half of it based on, I think, $750 of rent, right? It was
700.
700.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, 700. And so take that, now take out half for expenses. And so if we do that, then how much do we need, and how much do we want to have to be able to cover everything? And that's when we came up, I believe it was $350,000. But in order to do this many doors in this amount of time, because of course everyone's still thinking we're crazy, we know that we're probably going to be partnering with a number of people to do this, and which is A-OK. I love that.
Success.
Abundance. Yes. I love it. And so, but that's where we came up with 1,000 doors, and this is right, there's 1,000 doors right there.
Armbands. You ordered new armbands as soon as we got back, so they say 1,000 doors.
Yep. And so, so we knew that, and then you immediately posted on Facebook after we got back from vacation, and immediately, like within an hour, somebody said, "Hey, I've already done that. Give me a call."
Yep.
We're like, "What?"
Yep.
And other people chimed in. I have this thing now that. I know I post a lot, and I know we're super vulnerable and very, very transparent. Me in particular, I'll post anything because I'm just willing to share. Because if you don't share, how do other people learn?
Right.
And so, and how do you get to your goal? And I have this ask and you shall receive mentality now. If I throw something on Facebook and I tell people what I'm doing, it's scary, right? What if I don't get there? Well, I don't get there, but at least I tried, and I'm not ashamed of trying anything. So when I did that, all these people responded. And so I talked to one of them last week, and I'm going to be talking to the other ones this week. And we had previously kind of set a multifamily goal before, and I've got people there. We also joined, and this is just last week. So I kind of said on Facebook that the goal would be July 1st, 2021 to July 1st, 2022, because I wanted to put measurable dates for me to be held accountable to where we are. We actually started this last week, and our Friday night date night post, I posted, 1, we joined a multifamily mastermind. 2, we talked to somebody who actually came into town, and he's got a 12-pack he's already sent us, and he's working on a 100 apartment deal that he's going to be sending us. 3, I talked to the guy who posted and said I've already done this. Talked to him on Friday. He's got massive deal flow. He's willing to partner with us on all the deals. We fund he does the majority of the work, if not all of the work.
Right.
Obviously, if it's here in Ohio, then we can do it. And then 4, I had another friend who had told me about a mastermind that I should join because there's some guys in there that have just raised millions and millions of dollars. And so those are the 4 steps. So we had already, started taking steps. We announced it, immediately got feedback, started taking action steps the next week. We had come back, and it was kind of overwhelming at first. Like, I really got overwhelmed last week having to go through 500 emails and check, how did you guys do? Did you guys answer everything correctly? And kind of made the list of here's where I would have done differently so that I could coach the team on, hey, I would do this differently next time. It's no problem. You guys were given the power to run this company on your own without us. So, congrats. And this is what, in the future we could do it this way. And so we went through that process. It was overwhelming, but ultimately I was like, okay, I'm drawing the line in the sand. Everybody who had those tasks before, Jeff is going to meet with everybody and ultimately say, is there anything you're uncomfortable with keeping? Because Flip and Dani want to achieve this $1,000 goal. In order to do that, we can't be trying to run all the businesses and everything else too. So all of these tasks ultimately are being passed off. The tasks that were ours, like podcasts, like vlogs, like networking, like teaching classes, things like that, those were ours anyway, and they just stopped for 2 weeks. So we still have the things that we need to be doing, which honestly is a full-time job. But it was trying to do both of all the things that we did. It's nice now to be responsible for those things in the 1,000 doors. That's as much as we can handle, and then handing everything else off. So that's where we are. That's why we got to the goal. And I said when I posted a welcome thing into the multifamily mastermind, and I kind of told them the story about our 56 unit. And then I walked into our goal of, 1,000 doors. And I said, if you know me, I'm going to achieve the goal or die trying. Right. So it's very, very interesting to really go back on our story and see where we started and how we've gotten here. And most definitely in the last 4 weeks, what happened in the last 4 weeks and where we were with all of those tasks. And now they're gone and they're trained, and why that happened. And then ultimately how we got to the $1,000, what's the reason and the why behind it. And ultimately in 12 months, we should have amazing peace of mind. That 1,000 doors will probably be partnered with, multiple people, but that's okay. Because it might end up being a 2,000 goal. We'll get to 1,000 in 12 months, and then maybe we go to 2,000. In fact, I'm doing the 1 year, 3 year, 10 years right now. And I put in 10 years, 10,000 doors. Like, I'm just throwing stuff out there. I'm like, think big. And then you say, think bigger. Bigger. Yeah. So I'm trying to stretch my brain on what this looks like. And I think we'll just keep on going and having that nice, passive income in the portfolio is going to be brilliant.
Right. Yeah. You threw me off there because it's go big or.
Oh, go bigger.
Yes.
Yeah. I changed it to think because I was working on the goals. That's pretty much our story. Did we miss anything that?
I don't think so. I mean, we pretty much covered everything.
Yeah.
One last thing. At Disney, did you do anything else at Disney besides the band?
I was a character. I was Winnie the Pooh. I was Chippendale. I was Roger Rabbit. So you go in and you get to see what character that you are. And it's your height. Yep. Your height falls into certain characters. And so I was those characters. And that was lots of fun. Super hot. Oh, man. If you hate the heat and hate sweating, don't be a character. Because woohoo! Really super crazy.
Well, if there's anyone out there that remembers us from cruise ships, I always used to tell people useless knowledge. And here's a bit of Disney useless knowledge. How do you tell the difference between Chip and Dale? Chip only has one tooth.
Good one, Flipper. Awesome. Well, one of the things I always, when we're thinking about podcast titles, I'm thinking about who is this helping? And when I thought about this, we talked about the fact that we don't always share personal stuff. And so why don't we just talk about our story and how we got here, how we met, all that good stuff. And then I was thinking, who is this going to help, essentially? And ultimately, I feel like most of the people that we know are entrepreneurs in some right. Even if they're doctors or lawyers or whatever, they're a high-income earner that doesn't have time to be the entrepreneur or real estate investor that they otherwise could have. They certainly have the capability and the knowledge, and they can do it. But everybody needs to hear that it's okay to take time for yourself. When you get burnt out, it's okay to make a decision to be to take that break in order to come back better for your team or your family or whatever it is. Because when we made that decision, I think it was that night, I felt like a complete failure. I was just I can't believe we had to take a break. Who takes a break? Nobody takes a break. Nobody takes a do not disturb break. Why do I need one? And I just felt like I felt horrible. Right. But I think it's important, the more I actually started posting about that, the more people said, this really helps me because I feel like I don't have permission to take a vacation, to take a do not disturb. Right. And it was really, really cool. And I think there's lots of people out there that probably, need to hear the same thing. You got to concentrate on you and your health in order to be the best person that you can be for everybody else.
I'm a firm believer, and I told you this, and this is why we really did it, was that you don't hear about people doing their do not disturbs. Yeah, they do them. True. They just tell you that they work 900 hours a week, right. But they never tell you about their do not disturb vacation or shutdown times, because they want you to think that they are unstoppable and invincible. Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. But I'm sure I don't have proof, but I'm sure that everyone does this. There's no way possible.
And if they don't, hopefully they hear our story and go, hey, I have permission to do this. Because we didn't forever. Mm-hmm. And suddenly we're like, gotta do it. Mm-hmm. Exactly. So good. Well, I hope it helps people. Is there anything else you want to do? You want to close this out?
I think that's it.
All right. Well, thank you guys for joining us for today's podcast. And this is Real Talk for Real Estate Investors. And we appreciate you taking the time to be with us. And we always like to end with invest smart.
Live happy.
Bye, everybody.
Bye. Nothing on this show should be considered specific personal or professional advice. Please consult an appropriate tax, legal, real estate, financial, or business professional for individualized advice. Opinions and information on this show are not guaranteed. All investment strategies have the potential for profit or loss.